Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it, and I just finished a book. Go figure, I just finished a book. There is a book called Ratman's Notebooks, written by Stephen Gilbert, but it's a book that I had never heard of. Turns out I'd heard of a movie, or apparently a couple of movies, that were based in some way on this book, but I'd never seen any of them. I remember as a child, a movie called, as a relative, I think as a child, a movie called Ben, and I think my mom watched it, and I don't think I watched it. It seemed scary, rats killing people and stuff like that, but I've never seen it. But I heard of this book, this Stephen Gilbert book, only because I am a big fan of a publisher called Suntup Editions. Paul Suntup has hooked the brother up with some really nice books and helped, probably with the help of others, the Suntup Editions has helped curate some reading pleasure for me. Some books that I would have never considered reading, that I would have never perhaps even known existed, I've read because of Suntup Editions and other publishers. There are other publishers who are very, very good at such things. Paul Miller at Earthling Publications has been responsible for a lot of my reading as well. Centipede Press, SST Publications. I've read books because of some of these publishers have published books. Even Levidian Publications. Anyway, there's a lot of publishers. I could name a lot of lists of publishers. But I read rumors that their July book release would be Ratman's Notebooks by Stephen Gilbert. And I did a little looking, and I found a copy on eBay that killed a couple of birds or a couple of rats with one poker, I guess, that accomplished a couple of goals. For one, I wanted to read this book to find out if it's something that I should get involved with the Suntup editions, should the chance arrive, in which they did. We'll talk about that in a minute. But on the other hand, movie tie-ins and movie novelizations are a thing that I dig because I'm a fan of books and I'm a fan of movies. Now, having read the book nor watched the movie, I found a movie tie-in version of Ratman's Notebooks called Willard, a tie-in to the movie, which I still haven't watched, and now I will. Having read the book, I want to watch the movie. I kind of dig that sort of a thing. Sometimes you watch the movie and then you read the book. Now I've read the book, I want to watch the movie. But I got this in the mail and I started reading it right away. And today I finished it. in some cool goings-ons with the Suntup Editions, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. I finished this book. I want to tell you a little bit about it, even if you have no interest in what I think. I'm going to spew it, and you can choose it to watch or not to watch. But Ratman's Notebook is a book that kind of in many ways reminded me of other stories that I've read. Books like The Collector, like Zombie, like Butcher Boy. They reminded me of these books in a variety of ways, but part of it being that the central or the main character, the one who you're walking through this story adventure with, is a person that's not good. A person that has some sort of psychological disorders that have probably not been diagnosed or not been noticed. Very good at hiding these things in public is our main character here, who in the book is unnamed. So I'll call him Willard because of the title of this book, and I'm assuming that means in the movie he's called Willard. We'll call him Willard, or we can call him the narrator, the main character, whichever you prefer. Okay, so I'll just throw out different versions, whatever pops in my head at the time. But our main character doesn't think the way most of us believe we ought to think, where we look at the world not only through our own eyes, but we try to see the world from the perspective of others. We try to be courteous of others, not just because it's the proper thing to do, but because we don't want to hurt other people, and we don't want to treat other people badly, and we want to be fair to other people. A moral sense of right and wrong. And our main character here seems to do things based on propriety, based on the politeness, the way that he's raised, but doesn't really seem to have any true care or concerns for how other people feel or how other people are treated or what's fair to them and such as that. So our main character here is a young man who is kind of definitely is an underachiever. His father was a man of business, a domineering sort in the house, but he ran a business, and it was some success for a while, and then the business started to fail, and he sold the business off, and then died. When he died, he left a widow and a son. I don't know exactly. I don't remember if it said the age that he was when his father died. Probably could have figured it out. But he's a young man now, working at what once was his dad's business. Another man, Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones owns the business. He's the boss. He's got it all. He bought into it in a way, having worked for our main character's father. He bought into the business, and then through some maneuverings ended up as the primary owner of the business. And he doesn't treat his employees very well. He doesn't treat old Willard here very well either. Keeps them on, doesn't pay him. He doesn't give him a raise for many, many years. Willard works long hours late at night, works on the weekend, doesn't make really enough money to live. But the main character here lives with his widowed mother in their big old house that their dad had bought. And they lived as a family now. It's him living with his mom. And of course, she's now with her only thing in life is her house and her son. And her son's not really doing a great job in life. And she's disappointed in him. And she lets him know that every chance she gets, over and over and over, about how he doesn't apply himself enough in business. He's not successful enough. He's not going to ever get a woman. He doesn't do enough work around the house. He doesn't have enough ambition and stuff like that. And she also makes him feel very guilty about her spots in life. And she's very inquisitive, wants to know all of his comings and goings. And, it's not a good home life. And he's not very happy. And right off the bat at the beginning of the book, Mom is pestering our narrator about rats that are in the rock garden out back that he's let go away. It's all weed-ridden, and now it's rat-ridden. And she's wanting him to go kill the rats, get rid of the rats. And so he goes off to do just that. But he really can't bring himself to do it. He's there, he's ready, he's got it all set up, come up with a plan, got it all set up, and instead he starts to like the rats in a way. He doesn't have any friends, so he starts to figure, they kind of like me. And he finds that he can teach the rats things. He can teach them to understand what he wants. He can train them kind of like a dog, or really he trains them in many ways like a dog. In some cases to obey commands and to know what to do and how to do things. He teaches them words and stuff. He can't teach them to speak, but he can teach them to understand. And he grows to like a particular type of rat, one that has a hairy tail. And he seems to have some disdain for the ones that have hairless tails, the scaly-tailed, he calls them. He ends up making great friends with a rat that he calls Socrates. And Socrates seems to be a step above the rest in forms of intelligence. So he creates a personal relationship with this rat he names Socrates, brings him in the house. The rat sleeps with him, lives in the house. He teaches the rat, kind of potty trains him in a way, teaches him to make his mess in certain ways where he can easily clean him and not anywhere else. And ultimately, the other rats, they have a different life, but keeps them, maintains them, teaches them, but Socrates is his close companion. At work, his boss, Mr. Jones, being a very, very cheap miser-type business owner, takes good care of himself, but really tries to put the squeeze on his employees, asking more, giving less. And he comes up with a business model that It's even weird to describe it. He decides that he could hire women, or girls, that they call them as girls. He could hire ladies to come in, learn how to do the jobs, and let the ladies, they think perhaps, replace the guys that work there. They can hire the ladies for much, much less and teach the ladies to do these jobs and then knock the guys out of the business, and he can make even more money for himself, paying less to his employees. That doesn't really happen. It keeps the book, they keep the guys and they keep a group of ladies. But one of them, who the narrator just refers to as the girl, seems to take a shine to Willard, seems to like him, treats him well. She'll bring him good food where he's normally just eating garbage at work. If anything, she brings him good food that's filling and healthy and stuff. And he's very suspicious of her. Throughout the book, he's always coming up with a way to blame her for having some malicious or selfish intent for everything she does, only for him to come to the realization that she's sincere. She's legitimately trying to help him. She legitimately cares for him. Well, Willard's mom dies. Willard's mom dies, and Willard is actually happy about it, because she's a real burden to him. She really makes him feel bad. She does nothing good, really. And ultimately, he's privately, in his notebooks, this story is told through a series of diary entries. So the whole story reads as his daily writings in the book. That's what you're reading. And in his personal writings, he's happy that his mother's gone. He's happy that she's dead. He was hoping that she would die, and she died. But now, when she dies, the insurance, or the money that she's been getting from her husband's death, I think it was the insurance, that's gone, because the way it was written, she gets it, but when she dies, there are no more payments. So now he can only live on the money that he earns. His boss, Mr. Jones, wants his house, and he believes that Mr. Jones wants everything that his father had, his business, and now his house, and he won't let Mr. Jones have it. He feels like, this is the one thing I have that makes me better than everybody else, is I have this big old house. Even though he can't afford to live, and by selling the house, he could probably be much better off having some money. But he won't. And now Mr. Jones has squeezed him a little tighter, saying he's going to get rid of him, let a girl do his job. And he goes back begging, no, don't fire me, I'll work for less, and all that kind of stuff, which was just a trick that Mr. Jones had to get him to take less money. And I don't want to give really any more to the story, but things with the rats start to become malicious. Not only does he teach them things, but he teaches them bad things. And you can tell this is a horror story, a psychological horror. And the rats, well, they do bad things. But I will tell you about this other rat. There's another rat named Ben, who horns his way in, uninvited, horns his way in. And Ben becomes a nemesis. And I don't want to get into it any further than that. But I put off buying a fancy edition of this book because I was afraid of how this book would end. From the very beginning, from the very first diary or journal entry, I was hooked and I was in on the story. Boom, sucked in, and that's the way I love to read. That's the kind of story that I love. And for probably about the midway point of this relatively short book, 190 pages, something like that, about halfway in, I really realized I really am enjoying this, but I'm really worried that this is going to end poorly. That this, not poorly as in something bad happens to the character, but poorly as in a bad ending that I don't like. It's going to be blown away, ruined, stuff like that. It didn't. No spoilers here, but the ending worked. The ending was interesting. And I really enjoyed this book. Now, it's a different kind of a story, And like I compared it to some other books that it wasn't exact comparisons in any way, but I had some of the same feelings where I was almost ill and living in somebody else's mind as they tell the story. And that's the way I felt throughout this. Not ill as in sick, but I don't know. My brain, my thinking is now switched and changed and controlled, and I'm thinking his way in his story, feeling what he's going through and such as that. So often I thought of The Collector. At times I thought of Zombie, although this book is not as disturbing to me as Zombie was. Reading Zombie, at least at one spot, I felt like I shouldn't be reading this. And then Butcher Boy again, in kind of a similar way, is you're reading the point of view from a character who's not a good person. But the story is told in a way that you can start to understand and almost in a way feel for the main character and hope that there is some sort of a redemption or a resurrection or something like that. That's the same feeling I had when reading Butcher Boy, hoping that he would change, recover, redeem himself, grow. I felt the same way here, and I don't want to get into the ins and outs of that, but some of the ways I felt. Now, one of the interesting things about today, having finished reading this book today, was this morning I got an email from Suntup Editions. This book was their July 2025 release. In other words, you can buy the book, pre-order it, and then you get it when they get it finished making it. So it doesn't come out you won't be getting it anytime soon. And they work with a rights system. So if I buy the numbered edition in July, then I can secure the ability to get the August numbered edition, get the same number. I get to buy August, and if there's any books available at that point, then anybody else can go ahead and get the rest. But the September book, the rumor is that the September book, and I don't want to give out any information because I don't know, but it's what I think I know. The September book is one that a lot of people really, really want, and it's not because they want it, but I read that book a few months ago, and I loved it, and I loved the movie that was based on that book, and I really, really wanted the Suntup Editions numbered edition version of that one. Today they announced not only that the numbered edition for Ratman's notebooks was going to be upgraded slightly, production materials, but they also announced that the August book was going to be postponed, and there would be no August book. So the persons that pre-ordered Ratman's Notebooks numbered edition will now get rights to the September book that I really, really want, and I think a lot of other people really, really want too. Now, when you've got a book that's limited to maybe 250 copies, and you got a lot of people that really, really want it, the chances of you being able to get it at the on-sale date from the publisher are very, very low. And then if you still want it, you're going to have to pay secondary market prices for a book like that, which may be very, very high. So, having almost finished this book today and still being worried that the end was going to be ruined and the other opportunities that presented themselves and the upgrade and such, I went ahead and pre-ordered it. And then I finished the book just a little while ago, and the end was good, satisfying. I liked it. It worked for me. I'm not saying it was a happy ending. I'm not saying it was an unhappy ending. I'm saying the end worked. It wasn't ruined. It didn't ruin the story. And I'm in. Win. With that being said, I can think of no more lies to tell. Thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it. Thank you, Suntup Editions, for helping me to find out about another book that I really, truly enjoyed, and for putting cool stuff on my shelves. Well, I put them on my shelves, but you make them anyway. And nothing left to do but to say la vie, baby. Dude. No Country for Old Men.